Welcome to Promote, Profit, Publish. I'm your host, Juliet Clark, and today I'm going to talk about a new book that I just put out called Dark Granny. Those of you who are on my email list or social media probably already know that this is my first mystery novel that I have written in 15 years. So, and when I say that, I probably should not say written. I should probably say published, because I've been writing all along, but now that my kids are out of the house and married, I've decided, okay, it's time to take out those old manuscripts, spip them up, and get them published. So the reason I wanted to do the podcast today is not because of my book directly. I'm not here to sell you my book, although if you want to buy it, it's available on Amazon. I want to talk about all the differences in building a platform for fiction in 2026 versus 2010, because I'm astounded, but I'm astounded in a really good way because everything has come so far. So back in 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, when I was publishing my mystery novels, the only tools out there were Amazon tools. We really hadn't dove into funnels yet. There weren't ads, Amazon ads. There weren't ads of any kind. There were just free book giveaways and getting the word out via social media to your friends. And social media didn't even work the same way it did today. So you had pretty minimal exposure back then. As far as getting out, you had to hire someone for PR. We didn't really have podcasts. You couldn't do bookings. Some people had a blog, not many. Few had websites. So I think all of the things that have transpired over the last 15 years are really exciting changes. So I want to talk about that a little bit. For those of you who are trying to build a platform, I'm going to give you some clues on what I did with mine. Because, of course, owning a publishing company, I know a lot more than I did back then. I started my publishing company back then because the self-publisher that I used was so bad. Their idea of promotion was, here, get yourself a business card and get yourself bookmarkers. That was it. They sold websites, but they were really, really bad websites. I'm going to give you an example how bad. I had a series back then. The website could only handle one book at a time. So think of it this way. I could put Granny Heist or whatever book it was up, but I had to have individual websites unless I went to a web builder, which was very, very expensive back then, even way more expensive than today. But here's the kicker. It was a, quote, free site, but the hosting fees were like $45 a month. So at the end of the year, you paid for a non-flexible, worthless website that promoted one book. It had basically a landing page with a hit this and go into Amazon and buy the book. That was it. And you paid $500 a year or more just to have this site up. It was incredibly bad. And I didn't find that out until I put my second book out and I wanted to add it. And they're like, oh, no, this is non-flexible. You can't do that at all. So technology really has come a long way. My first book back then, I sold about, I want to say 150, 200 copies. And to be honest, I think my grandmother bought both of them because when she died and I cleaned out my house, I found a lot of them there. In fact, all the copies I still have came from my grandmother's house. It was a horrible book. It wasn't worth buying. My first editor was Stephen King's editor or former editor at the time. And you guys who have written books will love this. I didn't get to send a PDF or a Word doc via email. I had to print the entire manuscript, mail it, and mail it with a return envelope inside. So when I opened it up, when I got it back from editing, it literally, I almost cried, it was covered in red. It was so bad. So I had to go into that manuscript and make those changes one by one by one. And there were a lot of them. And why I find this so weird today is because if you send something off to an editor, probably in the last 10 years, it comes back, it's on Word, it's beautiful, they mark it, they comment, everything is done there, you accept it or you reject it. And so you didn't have to go in and make all of this one by one. So here's what I've noticed has changed tremendously, and I'm really grateful for it as well. So the number one thing is that now we have systems that do funnels. So we can build our own sites. If we have the knowledge, we can build our own landing pages. I actually built my site over a weekend on my Go High Level account. All of my social media is served from there. I have landing pages for the book that are individualized that I can use to promote, but I also have lots of buttons on the site. The buttons so the things I have on the site, I have my homepage, which has Dark Granny, and then it has a downloadable, a free book, which is The Fortune Teller's Daughter, which actually is coming out in June on Amazon. I have the next book, Farmhouse Forgotten. I've got a button sitting there saying coming soon, and I've got Bad Lie, which is the book that's coming out in August, sitting there as well. That is actually at the editor right now. Forgotten Farmhouse is in sort of minor rewrites after the editor. That was another thing I found really great is a couple of my old books. I went back and rewrote them. So they might have a different ending. They might have a few different characters. But the overall arch of that, the reason I rewrote them was I'm a much better writer in 2026 than I was in 28, 29, 2010. Back then, show versus tell wasn't my forte. And I think it's that way for a lot of authors who aren't naturals at this is, learning that show versus tell. And sometimes I even catch myself going back in the rewrites and relying heavily on that talking head dialogue to tell the story when, there are other things that I can incorporate in to tell that story. So you all need a website. You all need the funnel. The nice thing about Go High Level is I know how to build websites there. So I built my own. I built it in a weekend. And I'm going to tell you guys something shocking. I actually used Perplexity to build it. What does that mean? I had a vision. I fed the books in. I said, make me a brand guide. So it made me a beautiful brand guide. My son is in the process of writing some books. I showed him the brand guide and he's like, wow, Mom, that is so cool. Can you do it for me? So now he has a brand guide based on his books. And all that is how do our covers stay consistent? So we designed all the covers to be on brand. The colors on the website. I use versions of a very dark blue, a lighter dark blue, and gold because they are mystery novels. I want something a little bit creepy. We went to images that were a little bit mystery oriented, and that is another wonderful thing about AI. We did them all on AI, so the prompts make it look very, very mystery-like. And if you go look at the website, it's juliadylanclark.com, you'll actually see that we took the back template from the cover on The Fortune Teller's Daughter and made that the header so that it does look very police procedural, mystery novel looking. So all of that was there. The next we moved on to the About page. The About page, I didn't want some boring story about, I graduated and I do this and I do that. We did a lot of storytelling on the page, a little about what I did today, but a lot about the genesis of the series, why I like mysteries. One of my big things and the quote that AI picked out that I just love is I've always been a puzzle person, whether it is Sudoku, which I hate, I don't do it very much, or just a crossword puzzle in my hand, or even those cardboard puzzles you do at the table. I love them all. for me, that love has translated to writing mystery novels because mystery novels are just people puzzles. And the nice thing about people puzzles is they are unpredictable. So it's not like sitting down and, the crossword has one answer or the puzzle pieces in the cardboard fit together in a particular way. It's that people connection where that unpredictability or those people who behave one way in public and behave another behind the scenes. You really get to see and use your instincts about people. That's why I love reading mystery novels as well, because sometimes I'll know the bad guy in advance and I can choose it. But what is the story about how we got there? So if you look at the About page, there's a lot of storytelling there. And for those of you who don't know, I used to have a friend who was a Los Angeles County Sheriff, and she used to share stories with me. Of course, she didn't tell me inside information, but she worked the beat, what she called the beat. I guess you'd call it mystery. She didn't call it that. But her territory was Malibu for a very long time. And some of the stories she would tell me, I can remember there was one about Gary Busey that I just died laughing. I was like, really? That's what he does all day? He just sits up there and drinks and screams down at the people below. So, the cast of characters has a lot of realistic to it, as well as the hiking experience, because when I lived in Los Angeles, I used to hike out in Malibu. I used to hike down at Calabasas, like all over the place. And I sold real estate in a lot of those places as well, the higher end communities. So, there's a lot of insider stuff about how those people live compared to how, the little blue collar girl lived growing up. A lot of difference. Also, the small town distinction. I grew up and moved to big city places, but I grew up in a small town and I couldn't wait to flee, because if you've ever lived in a small town, everybody knows everybody's business. And the old folks can remember back when, so-and-so was like this and now he's this, and always willing to tell those stories on that. So the About page, a lot of storytelling. I have a page for my books. And I have just my mystery books in one place. My other books are on my regular website. I didn't feel, even though I just won an award for the Perfect Reader Playbook, I didn't really feel like the place for that was on my mystery site. So, and you can bet that I am in the background submitting Dark Granny and some of those other books for awards, because, that is currency these days in the book world. If you guys have been listening to the previous podcast to this, you know that Amazon changed the way they do their algorithms, and now they are rewarding those platform builders and they are disregarding those big spikes. So that was part of my launch strategy as well, is how do I roll out this fiction launch strategy so I don't get spikes, I have consistent sales. And I'll talk a little bit about that and some of those great tools that are out there to do that these days on that. So the books, and as soon as I have media for the books, of course, I will be putting that up, including this podcast, probably before it even comes out. I'll probably have a video over there on media to talk about it. So that's really important too. Back to the Fortune Teller's Daughter free copy. That is to build my mystery my email list. So that's essential as well. You need to update your followers between books, and you don't want it to be all sales. So, there's a lot of things I'll be putting inside of that email list into a newsletter of some sort. And the nice thing is too, now that I'm doing book swaps, I will be featuring some of those other authors over on my Breakthrough Author magazine, because I do have the ability to feature. That was one of the things when I set up a book of the week. And so it just won't be my clients. It will be doing book swaps with some of those others. And I dare say, I bet I have a bigger list of Breakthrough Author magazine than a lot of those authors do. So I really do feel like that promotion and a swap will be a really good sort of selling point to get people to do swaps with me as well. a clear genre branding. That one thing I said about that brand guide, have a brand guide. You don't have to go to some fancy schmancy branding expert for this. If you can do the right prompts inside of your ChatGPT, Claude, whatever you use, I love Perplexity, you will be able to get a really nice brand guide. And what I didn't tell you was when I built the website, I actually said, I use Go High Level. This is what I want. I fed all my books in. I fed the brand guide in. And I said to it, even though I know how to build, tell me specifically how to build this. So every single segment on my site, I had clear instructions. Pull down a single, put in a text box, make your text this size, make it this, the colors, everything. It's probably one of the best sites I've ever built because I had step-by-step instructions. I did make a few variances in it because it may have sounded good on paper, but it wasn't great to my eye, the way I see things. So, if you do that, use your intuition and your eyes, but don't get fancy with it. I think that is the number one thing I see on a lot of sites, whether they're fiction or nonfiction, is we try to get in these clever lines that nobody understands. So be sure your copy on this is really great as well. A limited number of discovery channels where authors spend time. Now, this is the part I hate and I haven't done yet, but I probably will need to get a Pinterest account. I have been avoiding it like the plague because Pinterest is one of those social media places where, actually, let me back up. I don't spend much time on social media. I have a team that does that, and I did that because it's really easy for me to get sucked in and spend and waste time there. So that's why I let my team do it, and they do everything. I probably will have to do that with Pinterest because I'm telling you, people, back when I used to spend a lot of time on Pinterest, I kid you not, I would pin those recipes, I would pin workouts, and if I truly did all of it, I would be a 400-pound fitness model. And I know that sounds like, what? You can't be a fitness model when you're 400 pounds. You're right about that, but I do love to work out, and I do love to eat and try new recipes. So that's what I did over there. I didn't buy a whole lot of things, but it was I could spend hours. I could spend a whole evening on Pinterest. So that's why if I do open my social media accounts, I may put together some of the posts. I definitely craft my own emails, but I let the team take care of it. If you're someone who's saying, I'm a fiction author, I don't have a lot of money, this is my, my side gig or my side hustle, then go over to Upworks. There are a lot of good people there. One of my assistants is over on Upworks. He's $5 an hour. You can vet them really great. He speaks amazing English. He grew up in the UK. He lives in India now, but he has a team of 30 people, $5 an hour. There's no excuse why you can't get help like that. Even on a budget, that, $5 an hour, giving them, 2 hours a week to run your social media, run your email list, all good. I personally like Go High Level. I was a little insulted last week when someone told me that was the quote flavor of the week. But I've gone through a lot of systems in my time as in the publishing business, and it is the most user-friendly, robust system that I have seen. I would avoid Wix. Wix is marketing light. A lot of people want to start there, but I always say go where you can grow because you don't want to have to rebuild everything someplace else. I have a client right now who's in the midst of that. We're building over on Go High Level because the team that built for him originally, that wasn't that long ago, did not build for growth. There wasn't a lead magnet. When I asked them, where are we going to put this lead magnet we created for my client? Their idea was to zap a list into Go High Level because his clients had already bought, or my clients had already bought Go High Level. So we're in the process of rebuilding a whole new site for him because you want someplace to grow. If you go someplace light just to save money, I get it, but aren't you really telling the universe that I'm not sure this is going to work out? So, got to be a risk taker if you want to do well in business, but a risk taker with common sense. How's that? So limited number of discovery channels. We will probably have to go Pinterest. Unfortunately, I'm more back on Facebook, even though I absolutely abhor Facebook, Meta, whatever we call it these days. I'm not on X anymore. I actually built my bones on X back in that 2009, 2010. A lot of traction over there. I think it's garbage now. Sorry, Elon Musk. But yeah, I think it's just one big food fight. It's just people brawling all day, and I don't want that kind of drama in my life, which is why my team runs all this now, because I don't need it. And then strong back matter in the back of the book. We wrote and rewrote all those back covers. What worked in 2010 doesn't work now. People are much more sophisticated. So we really had to take the back cover. We built out A+ content, which was a little tricky for mystery. And if anybody from Amazon is listening, hear me. When you write murder mysteries, there will be words like dead, gun, crime scene, blood. All of that's going to be in it. And it took me a little bit of rewording. I finally wrote them a note and said, hey, what up? And got the approvals through. But I have to tell you, A+ content is fun. I used a new AI program to create the graphics for it. And I was really excited about that. Let me see if I can get you guys the name of that program, because I paid $120 for it for the whole year. It's called recraft.io, and it is probably the best one I've found. I use fal.ai, but a lot of times I just get garbage back from it. If I'm asking it to write something on a banner, I get garbage. It doesn't do the words well, but I loved Recraft, and I'm going to keep using it. I really did enjoy it. So keep all of that in mind. As you're putting out your emails, make sure they have a nice banner on it. Make sure they have good headlines. Learn how to write good emails that are they're engaging so that people stay on your list. So why do all these elements matter? Because that's what we're doing these days versus the others. So thank God that I had all of that in my pocket and already knew that. Now I'm going to get to the part about the launch and the campaign. And this is where I am so grateful that so many trailblazers have been out there building different things that are really helping with this launch. So our first launch protocol is I have a big goal here. I would like a contract. I would like a traditional contract for the series. So I asked Perplexity about a particular platform that I want to get the series on, and I have my reasons for doing it. I don't want to share it because I don't want it out there. Because if they hear this, then they'll go, no, she crafted the whole plan around this, and she's going to share it with everybody, and then everybody's going to want it. We'll have to change. But one of the milestones was 100 pre-sale. So I seeded that with not only my list, but I got commitments from friends and family to buy to get me to the 100 milestone in pre-sale. Now, why did I do that? It's really hard in fiction, because with nonfiction, you've been building an audience, you have a business. The pre-sale is not as difficult to get 100. With fiction, if you're an unknown and this is your first book, and I am treating this like a first book, nobody knows me from 15 years ago. So I had to find people to make that commitment. There aren't many programs out there in pre-sale for these things. Most of the campaigns that I'm running are post-sale, when what usually happens is in pre-sale, you get a bump and then it drops after about the second week. Any of you guys who've been following the Perfect Reader Playbook know that. That is always the challenge for authors, is you go gangbusters, there's a spike, which Amazon is now not treating that spike. They don't want to see those. So I'm putting it out there, the 100 in pre-sale. I have that commitment. People already started to buy before, and they actually showed me what they bought so that I could keep track of the numbers. And that was fantastic, because I could take that and go back in and match. So I did friends and family for my 100 launch, And I had a strategy that gets me to 100 without anybody else being involved. Anybody else through my list or those variables is an unknown, appreciated, but unknown. One of the things that I did with this in pre-sale, though, is I went back to my my list for nonfiction. I announced the book was coming out, and I gave them a free gift if they brought me back the receipt for the book. So I gave them a free copy of The Fortune Teller's Daughter that's coming out in June. Now, why did I do that? First of all, I wanted them to read it. I wanted to have a free gift. Second of all, I'm going to keep up the Dark Granny campaign and then go back and redo, with the exception of the pre-sale, because I don't care as much about the pre-sale now. I can go back to friends and family and do this again with my pre-sale on The Fortune Teller's Daughter. But I'm going to run the same campaigns with adjustments that I did for Dark Granny post-release, so launch and post-release. I'm going to be doing that over the next 4 months. Everyone that comes back, I'm going to be doing the same campaign, only structuring it a little bit different, because I will learn something from Dark Granny. I will learn what to adjust. I will do that on The Fortune Teller's Daughter. If I see other things there that go forward with Farmhouse Forgotten, I will make adjustments. By the time I get to Bad Lie in the August release, I will be putting that into a book award, since it is a brand new book. And also, by then, I should have the protocols down, and who knows, I may find some new things I can add as well. So what did I do? First thing I did was, and I hope I get these right, I did BookBub, and I actually went there. Since I already have a list and newsletter, I started running ads. Well, first of all, let me back up. The first thing I did was Amazon ads. So Amazon ads will start on launch. I did Amazon ads 2 ways. I did one with keywords, and I did another with like authors. So I had Perplexity run me a list based on the sound, the way my books are written, my voice, my tone. It came back and told me who those authors that were like me were. I was actually pleasantly surprised, because I read a lot of those authors. So I felt like it was good news. I don't know that I feel like it matches theirs, because I've been writing for years. That was never my intention, but I do like that it was there. So I put those authors into the ad. So those will start, or those started on May 12th and have been running. The second thing I did was I went to BookBub, and I booked ads there. And I also did I think it's I did a campaign there that started on June 18th. So I gave myself a month there, ran another campaign, and then also I did some things on BookFunnel. So I'm doing book swaps. What is a book swap? When you go over, there are several authors who have lists that they are willing to do a swap. So if you have a list, they will do a book mention, or, I'm doing exclusives for the books that I do book swaps with in my email or in my newsletter. So there are a lot of things like that you can do. That's all the more reason why you should build this list while you're writing in advance, because if you have the large list, you have leverage to do those swaps. And for me in 2020, that was the way I built my podcast. I built my numbers. I built my interviews. Was I went in, because remember, we were all at home. We didn't get to really have in-person events. So I went through LinkedIn and found people with podcasts and offered pod swaps. And a lot of them did that. So a pod swap is where I invite them on my show. They invite me on their show. We're basically exposing ourselves to different audiences. Same concept here. These are people who have built a list, they've built an audience, and they're willing to share, and you share as well. So that was one of my strategies. We also did, like I said, we're running ads to mystery enthusiasts. So they're targeted ads outside of Amazon. One thing I would never do is Google ads. That's just a big waste of money. And so we have a lot of things that we're doing that are ongoing. Because the one thing people don't remember is that a book is a lifetime commitment. And I know for a lot of my nonfiction authors who haven't built a platform, they get really frustrated by this because the sales drop and they sort of assume that people would just find them. And so it doesn't take them more than about 60, 90 days to give up the ghost on that and quit promoting. So I really encourage you in this process to utilize whatever AI platform you're doing for and with your nonfiction book, and really be able to figure out what the right platforms are for you. And again, it's a budget issue. So make sure you budgeted. You know, those ads I know with I think it's the book, either the book funnel or the BookBub ad, I am giving it a very short period of time for a test. So I put $20 in, I'm running a test for 5 days. I want to see the efficiency before I spend a bunch of money. That's another area you can test ads in. And then I wanted to, let me grab it really quick. Actually, I won't save it. The June 18th is actually on a different platform. I went to Book Sirens. I was rejected. So I went to another platform. Now, why was I rejected from Book Sirens? More than likely because I didn't have reviews yet. So I will be going back to Book Sirens, but I did find another platform that does something very similar that did accept, but I couldn't get in. They have about a 2-month lead time, so I couldn't get in until June 18th. So look around at those different things. Utilize AI to find out what you should be doing, and then budget appropriately. I'm a little scared by my budget. I literally went back to my AI and I said, oh my God, I need more clients, because I also have some other goals I'm doing this year that I need things I'm building that I need extra cash for. So make sure that you have the appropriate budget for this. Make sure that you are getting a good editor. Make sure that you have a good formatter. Be sure that you have all of those things in place, good cover design, catchy cover design, but the design build out is there. So, there are a lot of things that are in play here. I know a lot of fiction authors go the self-published route. So this is really important for them to figure out those costs in advance. Here's what I wouldn't recommend. Don't go over to Fiverr. You're going to get your book stolen. So don't do anything wacky like that. I had an author the other day who shared with me that all of her books are out at beta readers. Well, that's amazing. And you filed the copyright when? She hadn't filed it. So she had her book out there without filing. As many of you who are listeners know, it was either last year or the year before, a really good book developer came to me in a tizzy because she had a self-published author who didn't file her copyright. And somewhere in the process, her book got stolen. We don't know if it was formatters, cover design, if her computer got hacked, but the bottom line was somebody else published her book under their name, and no idea. And there's nothing she can really do about it because she didn't file that copyright. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit because I am pleasantly surprised. And as someone who develops marketing programs for authors to be able to, get more bang for their buck, I'm really excited to see that this has happened in the fiction world, and there are other people doing this as well. You guys have probably seen on my show Adana Moriarty and her partner, Kathleen Kaiser. They've developed a program that can really help self-published authors get their metadata right and their social media right. So, there are people out there doing this in a big way. You just need to explore and find those people. Okay, I hope I didn't bore you all to death, but, I just wanted to share that because platform building, it doesn't matter if it's fiction or nonfiction, it is really important. Amazon feels it's important enough that they're rewarding those people. So a lot of those things I mentioned are clicks from external sources, which Amazon loves and rewards now. So, all right, I will see you next episode. Thank you.